All right, welcome back, friends, citizens of the Do Hard Things Nation, to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm Jay Teagues, leadership trainer, speaker, venture coach. I've been away for the last couple of weeks, but I'm back. And I'm in studio here with Zach. How you doing, Zach?
Good morning. Doing
good
good.
morning.
How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. It's good to be back, but I'm still on New Zealand time because I did not, as much as I tried to sleep last night, I couldn't sleep. So I'm not going to lie. I'm dragging just a little bit. I'm still in that weird, I don't know, that just super jet lag, but man, I'm doing great otherwise. So, but glad to have you here. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence, why it's so incredibly important. It's even more important than your IQ. And so we're going to kind of dive into that. But before we get into today's topic, just real quick, make sure you smash that subscribe button so you're notified of future episodes. Check us out. We're on all podcasting platforms. We're on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe and leave us a review on Apple because it goes a long way to helping us expand the Do Our Things Nation empire. This episode is sponsored by Lions Guide. Lions Guide is a growth agency. We empower everyday people to be world-class leaders. We feel that leadership solves most problems, whether it's with yourself, within your organization, your family. And, we empower everyday people to become world-class leaders. And look, being the one in charge can be overwhelming. Without the right support, you might feel like you're hardly keeping up with demands, struggling to staff, retain, maximize your team. You may even find yourself overwhelmed, but it doesn't have to be that way. Lions Guide helps leaders like you gain confidence, accomplish more, and earn the personal freedom you sought to achieve. We do that through group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and organizational workshops. You go over to lionsguide.com, learn more about our programs that we have going on over there. This episode is also brought to you by the University of Applied Research and Development, and we help veterans obtain their bachelor and master's degree in emergency management. Emergency management is leadership in times of crisis, and there's so many positions available in organizations looking for the skills and abilities that veterans have to help lead and manage in times of crisis. And this is a fully funded VA program. This is specifically for veterans. You gain maximum credit for military service and experience. The goal is for every veteran to have their degree within a year because they're already coming with a lot of experiences and a lot of things that nest quite nicely with this degree plan. This is a great way to experience New Zealand. I just got back from another epic trip, and we're looking for veterans for the May and July cohort. So you can go to www.uard.university or reach out to me directly. We will get you squared away. This episode is also sponsored by DoHardThingsNation.com, where you can get some awesome gear. You can get that flag that's behind Zach's head. You can get the hat, the patch, a whole bunch of like motivational gear. So dominate the day, show the world that you do hard things. So emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Well, it's the ability to perceive, interpret, demonstrate, control, evaluate, and use your emotions to communicate with and relate to others effectively and constructively. And some experts suggest that emotional intelligence is even more important than your IQ for success in life. It's the ability to perceive, interpret, demonstrate, control, and use emotions to communicate with and to relate to others effectively and constructively. And the ability to express your emotions and control them is so critically important. Have you ever lost control, Zach? You ever lost control of your emotions?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It sucks. It sucks. It's not a good thing, right? And so describe a time where you lost your emotional control.
I know I've done it plenty of times at work. Especially when I was driving for home health. I mean, it's like sometimes getting on the highway there and traffic's, backed up. You're late to your next appointment. The day's already dragging out. You're going to be home late, and you're just screaming at the person in front of you. And it's like, and then you realize it's like, whoa, what's going on? Why am I freaking out so bad? Like me yelling at this person isn't going to help.
Yeah. You're like punching the steering wheel. Like, I wish I had more middle fingers right now. You're like, you don't even know the guy, they're just trying to get to traffic. They're in a hurry too. And yeah, I've done it, laid on the horn, not a proud moment, but that is losing your emotional control, right? I've gotten pissed. Like when I'm working on something like in the shop sometimes, or I'm working on a project, I can get very frustrated. and I've like, thrown a tool or a hammer, lose my shit, and it's not a fine moment when I do it, but I have done it less and less because of the personal growth and development work. But it still happens sometimes. It still happens from time to time, where it usually comes when I am overwhelmed, or if I'm in a really foul mood, something maybe has just recently happened, but it does happen. But it's happened less. You do this when you're a child, and I think you learn over time to control it, over time. But I think that there's more work that can be done, and we're going to talk about this morning, like the 5 stages of emotional control. So, Zach, emotional control. So, what do you think? You mentioned something about, or I mentioned that emotional intelligence is more important than emotional IQ. What do you have something on that? Do you?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was interesting when I was doing my final projects for school. One of the things that I ran into was a study showing that over 80% of people's success markers are shown to be more related to emotional success or emotional intelligence over that IQ number. So I thought that was really interesting. And so there's a lot of businesses and a lot of employers now that are looking for people who do have that high emotional intelligence markers. So I thought that was pretty interesting because it was it's really something I didn't think of. You when you think of a job and what they want, you think, oh, they want somebody who has the skills, they want somebody who knows all the different areas of the job, is really intelligent in that area. But really what a lot of them are starting to look for is that emotional intelligence, because you can teach someone how to the different aspects of a job, but it's much harder to teach someone good emotional intelligence if they haven't been working on that their whole life. So I thought that was pretty interesting that's one of the big markers in there.
Yeah. Have you ever worked with someone that didn't have emotional intelligence?
Yeah,
they're losing their stuff over or over things that are happening at work, and they're just not pleasant to be around. Yeah, it's very difficult to train that, right? But you can train someone a variety of skills. And I noticed that all these questionnaires, like when you apply for various jobs and positions, a lot of those they do screen for that. They're looking for those things. So it's incredibly important to be aware of your emotional intelligence. So here's some key signs and examples of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to identify and describe what people are feeling. So understanding that there are a lot of emotions out there. And I know from a man's perspective, someone said this one time, like when it comes to emotions, there's like a 64 box Crayola of emotions. There's a lot of emotions, but men typically walk around with like the 8-pack Crayola. Women have the 16-pack. But guys really struggle. Like we're just angry or like our emotional vocabulary and our bandwidth is like very, very small. But when we can expand our emotions and be aware of them, especially from a man's perspective, like I was taught, especially in the military, you just stuff your emotions away. Be stoic, stuff your emotions away, but emotional intelligence is to identify the own emotions that you feel, and having some level of empathy to determine what people around you are feeling, and being able to identify what those are and have a sense of empathy. It's an awareness of your own personal strength and your limitations, and as performance coaches, that's what we do is we help people identify, have self-awareness, reflection, and what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. It's having self-confidence and being able to love yourself and accept yourself. It's the ability to let go of mistakes. I've done that where I've really beat myself up over something. The ability to accept and embrace change. People really struggle with that one. When there's something new, especially in an organization, like there's a new policy. Oh, we just quickly want to just not embrace the change. It's a strong sense of curiosity, which I would tell you that's one of my success markers, is being genuinely curious about things, and being open-minded versus being closed-minded. Showing sensitivity to the feelings of other people. It's accepting responsibility for your mistakes. And it's the ability to manage emotions in difficult situations. So those are all signs and examples of how you demonstrate emotional intelligence. Am I missing anything there, Zach?
No, I think you hit all of them right on the head. I think it's really interesting. You talked about basically, about having that level of self-awareness. And I think
Mm,
that's really kind of that first level of it is being aware of those emotions. Because I know I ran into some studies talking about how even in the United States in general, we have less emotions than in some other countries, like as far as words for emotions. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, because it's like if you don't have that ability to be able to know what emotion you're feeling and the nuances between them, it's kind of hard to be able to adjust how you're acting. Because
yes.
with emotional intelligence, it's not necessarily about pushing it away, like you said, because you can do that for only so long, to where you push down those feelings and just keep trooping on through it and pushing on through. But eventually, it's going to show itself again, and usually in a very ugly way. Um, so being able to identify that emotion and then be able to work with it and find the right coping mechanisms, and kind of know, okay, well, if I'm feeling like this, I know when I am, this is what I usually do. So I might have this response or reaction when I'm feeling this emotion. So it's good to be able to identify those and know which ones you're feeling, and that way you know kind of how to work around it, how to manage it a little bit better. Because yeah, I definitely have noticed that, especially with myself, with all the growth and being able to identify those a lot easier. It doesn't necessarily make me perfect or anything in my emotions, but what it does is it allows me to get them back on track a lot quicker.
Mm.
So I think that's kind of the big one for me, as far as is really learning what those emotions are, and kind of taking a bit of an inventory of what I do when I am feeling those emotions. That way I can kind of plan around it. So,
Yeah, there's a scale. I think it's Abraham Hicks' emotional scale, and he's got listed like 22 emotions. It's almost like a ladder. At the very bottom is like, I think it's like just complete despair, and then the very top is like joy. And there's like all these different emotions up and down this ladder, and there's a scaling to it. It's not just, oh, I'm angry and upset, and because despair is even like worse than that. That's like depression is like at the very bottom. And there are ways, if you can pinpoint exactly where you're at. I know in my law of attraction planner, at the very front of it, if you can pinpoint your emotion, it gives you journal prompts and some words of affirmation and some tips to help you. You may not, it's going to be very difficult to go from depression to joy, right? That's a big
yeah.
swing. But if you got to depression to just feeling like, what would be one in the middle, just feeling bored. Okay, that's infinitely better. And bored is one of the emotions. It's one of the emotions. That's like
Oh,
halfway. It's at the halfway point. That's infinitely better than feeling depressed and despair, right? So if you could just get
oh,
up
absolutely.
a few rungs of the ladder, you're doing better, and just kind of continue to work your way up. And that's one of the reasons to do this work, so you can pinpoint these things and do the work necessary to move up the ladder. So I love that.
Oh yeah, that and I really like the empathy part of it as well. Having that empathy for other people and trying to understand where they're coming from as well. Because there's so many times that we go through life and we don't really realize what somebody else is going through.
Yeah.
So we can have a lot of these emotions and these reactions, but like we don't really truly understand, like why did they act that way.
Yeah.
We're worried about how we're feeling and how we're acting, but that empathy part is understanding, well, why are they acting that way? Is it just because they're a terrible, horrible person, or is it because maybe they've gone through something difficult today and they need your help and support? So I think there's a lot to that, just trying to kind of give people a little bit of that kind of a little bit of grace, and saying, okay, well, maybe there's something else going on. Maybe I need to offer something up to say, hey, do you need some help? Now, obviously, we can't do that for every single person we run into, but definitely for those people that mean the most to us, it's like maybe I need to dig a little deeper and figure out what's going on with this person. How can I help them out? Because you never know what somebody's going through. So.
It's also having empathy for that dude that just cut you off in traffic, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like you don't know what they're going through. Maybe they have a medical emergency. Who knows what's going on with them, and having the patience and the grace to be like, you know what? woosah. I want to throat punch this dude, but I'm not going to. And because we don't know, we don't know it. And that's, the reason for kindness, right? When you're standing in the grocery line, because you might be the first person that's said something kind to that person and showed them some kindness. So empathy is incredibly important. And I think in our culture, we've become less empathetic. And you're noticing that, especially on social media, people are far more emboldened to say, they're keyboard warriors and saying horrific things to other people. And I think we need more empathy for others, for sure. Well, there are 5 stages, if you will, to emotional intelligence, and I'll kind of go through them kind of quickly. But the first one, and we just talked about this, was self-awareness. It's recognizing and understanding your emotions. So it's having awareness of what your emotions are. What are the emotions? So having expanding the vocabulary and knowing that for yourself, it's what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, and it's appreciating, having empathy for those around you and appreciating their emotions. It's like the foundation for good intuition, and it's good for decision making. It helps you make the right choices in all aspects of your life. And it's knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So that's self-awareness.
Yeah, because you got to know where you're starting at. So if you're making a big decision, like, are you worried right now, or are you upset right now, or are you angry right now? Those things are going to affect how you make your decision. So
Yeah,
it's good to know where you're at to start with.
absolutely. So once you've done some good self-awareness, on yourself, and you've mastered these things, the next thing is self-regulation. This is the second rung. Okay, so self-regulation is managing your emotions. So especially the negative ones. It's not losing control. It's what's the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I love that book because it talks about, you have 2 brains. You've got your emotional brain and your logic brain. Emotional brain is the ones that you instinctively act on all the time. Your logic brain is more like your stoic brain. It's more like thinking through things. And it talked about in that book, like how it's like your brain is like a clown car, and the emotional side of your brain is like the clown trying to drive your car. And if you don't control it, if you don't master it, it will drive you off the cliff. And so, managing your emotions, more specifically your negative one, is incredibly important. This is, treating others with respect. It's staying in control. It's, not having emotional outbursts. It's practicing staying calm. And these are not easy to do. Like you have to work on this when you are feeling triggered and you're in that moment, and it goes back to awareness. Okay, shit, I'm feeling so angry right now. I want to throat punch that person. I want to throw this hammer. It's like, no, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to count to 10. I'm going to go through my little woosah routine of anger, the movie Anger Management. I'm going to go scream like into a closet, whatever you have to do. Like there's so many things that you can do. Maybe so you need to, Tony Robbins talks about this. You need to change your physiology, right? Change your physiology, and it changes your state of your emotional state. And so all of those things are important. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I definitely know it's about choosing reaction over response. So you can react using all that emotion and not really think about anything, or you can respond and say, okay, what emotions am I feeling? What do I want to be putting out right now? And going with that route versus just going with whatever comes first because that emotion's driving me in that direction. So, I think that's one of the things that, they were teaching in one of the classes that I was taking on emotional intelligence was it's that choice. So you can either let those emotions control you and react, or you can control those emotions a little bit and choose to respond. So you're still going to have emotions. It's not like they're any different. They're gone. It's just you're choosing to recognize them and then make a response versus just going with whatever those emotions are telling you to do, which is choke that person out, punch them in the face. Instead, now you're saying, okay, I'm going to respond. I'm gonna wave at them and say hi, and just go on with my day, and hope maybe that was the difference that they needed this morning, so
kill them with kindness. Kill them with kindness. Yeah, it's hard to do.
It is.
All right, the third rung of this is motivation. This is where you create necessity for yourself, which is, I think, motivation can be very fickle, but it's how you improve and achieve. It's setting high standards for yourself and working toward goals. It's taking initiative. It's being ready to act on opportunities that present themselves. And it's being assertive. And motivation is about being optimistic and resilient and finding the positive in things, especially those things that didn't go well, or maybe some of your failures. And so motivation is the third rung.
Yeah, that motivation, that can be a tough one sometimes. I definitely go through little spouts where I'm feeling less motivated. But yeah, it helps to just kind of look back and at some of those times when you were doing a little bit better and saying, okay, well, what was kind of exciting me in that moment, and going back to that necessity and figuring out, okay, well,
Yeah.
what is it right now that needs my energy? Who needs my help? Who needs, what excites me, and really just kind of focusing in on that to build up some of that momentum, of that motivation. So,
Well, I love it. So there's three corners on your overall growth and fulfillment. And it's what excites me, what makes me feel alive. How can I tap into that? Who needs me on my A game? Who needs me to show up? Other people, right? And then the other one's having meaningful pursuits, having that challenge that's meaningful that will drive you to fulfillment. That's like the recipe for achievement and fulfillment. And so motivation is being able to raise your necessity. But that's the third rung of emotional intelligence. The fourth one, we've already talked about this a lot, was having empathy, but this is a key interpersonal skill. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to walk a mile in their shoes, to see, the situation from their vantage point and their perspective, and having awareness of how others are feeling. And even if you don't agree with them, now that's where it gets really difficult, right? Because especially in our today, where it's very difficult to talk about politics or religion or views on, insert topic of the day, and man, it can get visceral pretty quick, right? But respecting other people's opinions and respecting diversity and inclusion, it's a vital aspect of empathy. And so paying close attention to other people, that's where it's at.
Sorry, my dog's scratching at the door. I had to mute there for a second.
Oh, good.
I can hear him scratching in the background. Hopefully it's not coming through on the camera.
And then finally, social skills. This is, it's having the skills to deal and communicate with other people. It's being trustworthy. It's being a team player. It's being, having confident communication skills. It's listening to other people, effective listening skills. And, people that have good social skills tend to make really good leaders because they inspire and they motivate people. They manage change. They can resolve conflict, and they give praise, because that's all part of, having social skills. And that's something that can be developed over time. I would say, very early in my life, I was such an introvert. I still feel that I'm socially awkward sometimes, but it's something I've had to kind of work on and improve and put myself out there to develop. It seems like social skills can come naturally easier to some people. Doesn't come natural to me, but I've just had to work on it over time, and it does. But a critical part of emotional intelligence. So what do you think about social skills?
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's definitely communication is that huge aspect of those social skills and being able to effectively communicate. And yeah, I'm right with you. Like my introvert, kind of ness, it doesn't help me in that situation a lot of times. So it does take a lot of work to kind of get over that awkwardness and really just kind of be able to communicate openly and freely in that sense. I definitely find it a lot easier if I have like something to like if I have something that I know I need to put out there, it gets a little bit easier to do it that way. So like when I was doing home health, I could go in there and I knew all the stuff I needed to teach and this and that, and it could come off really easy. And, I'd have a lot of patients be like, oh, I'd have never guessed that you're an introvert. And it's like, yeah, I am. I've just had a lot of practice at it, so they're like, well, I would have never guessed it, but it's like, in reality, I'm like thinking like, oh, like this was probably the weirdest, most awkwardest sounding thing ever. And they're like, oh no, it's completely fine, natural. It's like, okay.
It's definitely a skill that can be developed. And hey, Zach, so, we met about a year ago. It was the last March, wasn't it? When we did the March, did the March for Ukraine. And that's when you kind of crossed paths, and you've been in the Forge, and, you got certified as a performance coach yourself, and you've been on your own journey as, in college and whatnot. And, and you've been on the podcast numerous times, and it's you seem more comfortable this morning than you did. I remember the first couple of times that you came on the podcast, reading from the paper, and I knew that it was like because you like to be very prepared, We were talking about this before we hit the mic this morning, right? And being robotic. And I told you yesterday when we like talked about the topic of the day, like, dude, just a couple bullet points. Don't rehearse a lot this time. I want you to be natural. And this morning, it's been such a natural, like, it's a stark contrast from the first couple podcasts where you came on, and it's awesome. It's so your social skills and that skill sets, those all can be developed over time. And the more confident you become, the more competent you become.
And I think the big part of it is practice. Yeah, I mean, you really got to get out there and practice. So I mean, anything that you're not feeling like you're at your top, I mean, it's really just repetition, getting out there and doing it again. And it gets a little more comfortable, but yeah, I mean, it's still something that, if you are more introverted, you're always going to feel a little awkward, but it comes out a little bit better each time. So
high performers find opportunities and they're scared. They do it anyway because they know that they got to develop the skill. They know it's important for leadership. And so if you want to be a leader, you've got to work on your social skills and develop that muscle. And I tell you, it's not I'm surprised. I tell people that I'm an introvert and they're like, they're surprised. I'm like, yeah, it takes me a lot of work. Like before I walk into a room, I got to like do my little routine and get my mind right. And just, okay, here I'm going to get out of my shell and I'm going to go meet some people and talk to them and be engaged. Cause my natural disposition is to just kind of do my own thing. But incredibly important.
Corner,
Yeah, but that goes back to having self-awareness, right? So, I'm aware of that. So, and I walk myself through the ladder here of emotional intelligence. So
I know that's what a lot of businesses are looking for too, right past, you go past emotional intelligence and then usually the second one is communication.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that's what people are looking for. You got to be a good communicator. You got to have good emotional intelligence. So it all ties back into each other.
Absolutely. So yeah, just to recap the how you develop the stages of emotional development or emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And so that you got to work on these things, and the best way to work on them is to be around other growth-minded, like-minded people. And so surround yourself with those people that are doing the work and are aware of it. And because I tell you what, I got people in my thread, they do not have emotional control. You can see because they're ranting on their Facebook page for the whole world to see, like very intimate details about things that probably should be not on social media. It's like, ooh, but he's having empathy for them anyway and wishing them well. And hey, do you need anything? But that's, you can tell people that have emotional intelligence versus those that could probably work on some of that. And I'll be honest, I'm embarrassed for what I used to post, when Facebook came around. I think 15 years ago I started using it. Has it been that long? 12 years ago? I don't know. I'm embarrassed.
We were just talking about that the other day. We were thinking back and we were like, oh my gosh, that was 20 years ago. I was like, oh, time is flying by.
Time is flying by.
It was yesterday.
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts on emotional intelligence?
Yeah. I basically, it just comes back to being able to choose, it's like, do you want to let your emotions control you? Or do you want to control them? So having that response versus that reaction. I think that's really the kind of the biggest part for me. Cause it really is. And I know we go through a lot of that in high performance as well. It's like, what do you want? Is this the person you want to be? Like we can choose to be someone, better than we are now, and just by putting ourselves in that mindset will help lead us in that direction. So I think it works kind of the same way. It's like, I can look at myself and say, yeah, right now I feel tired and depressed, whatever it might be. And I say, but what do I want to feel? So I think that's really kind of the big thing is look at it and say, okay, well, I'm going to choose to respond. I'm going to choose to be what I want to be and not what I'm feeling that gut jerk reaction to do. So
set the intention and then execute. And it's not an easy thing to do, but if you have awareness and the discipline, you can do it. You can do it. Yep. And set the intention, change your physiology. Set your intention, change your physiology. That works incredibly well. It works for me.
Yep.
So if you want to perk up, just go jump, take a cold shower. I know it sounds crazy. People are like, oh, hell no. I'm telling you, take a cold shower. It will change your it will change your emotional state. Because you can't think of anything else except for the cold water hitting you, and you usually feel better when you're done. So, all right. So, hey, let's get into today's weekly winner. Do Hard Things Nation weekly winner. I love this one. I love this one. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Frank Batts. He is my former first sergeant. So got my Bravo 554 flag right there. He was my right-hand man when I served there. And I tell you what, someone that motivates and inspires me. He's a humble leader. He got promoted to command sergeant major and is currently stationed in Italy. And yesterday he ran the marathon in Rome. So it's an amazing picture. So that's the Coliseum. You see the little heart down there. That's him getting after it during the marathon. And so he's been training. He posts his pictures quite a bit. And he said he didn't hit his target time, but he did PR. And he's going to do a recap later. And he's just constantly, he's a family man. He's just a humble leader, and he's always out getting after it. He always motivated, inspired me. And, in the, that leadership position that I was in, as my right hand, like we had some very challenging times, and he was always there for me to hear me out. And I just really appreciate Frank. And Frank, you're just someone that embodies what the Do Hard Things Nation is all about. So we're gonna honor you and send you a shirt. So keep getting after it. We appreciate you, and well done on that marathon. And so thanks for sharing that, brother.
Yeah, that's awesome. Being able to run a marathon in Rome.
Yeah, what a cool opportunity. He's got some amazing photos. He's always out getting after it. And on the weekends, I'm like, oh man, I need to get out because he's in a different time zone. So I'll see it. I think usually like first thing in the morning or something like that. He's up getting after it on a run. I'm like, I need to get my ass moving. So yeah.
It's a good way to start to motivate you for the day. Going back to that motivation,
Yeah, you got to have people around you, right? Who's in your Facebook feed? A bunch of people losing their emotional control, or you got people getting after it, right?
Exactly.
So, surround yourself with people getting after it, and help those inspire people and help them who are losing their emotional control. Show them the way. Hey, and if you're one of those people, you want to work, you want to do some work, you want to grow yourself, join the Forge. You can join us in the Forge. The Forge is a community, mastermind community of like-minded people, growth-minded people. We meet up weekly, facilitate great conversations. We go deeper. Zach's wearing his Forge shirt. He's a proud member of it. And we haven't really advertised it much over the last year, but we're really going to start driving membership. We want to expand the group. We're getting organized. We're expanding it. We're calling it Forge 2.0, and we're kind of doing a launch, if you will. And we're looking for people to join us. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me directly. We can get you all the details on what that looks like. But it's essentially a weekly meeting. You're going to have access to a library of content. We have a book club in there. We have weekly book calls on top of our weekly just meetings, and we talk about topics like this. And you surround yourself with people that are striving to be better. It's not a group that anyone can get into. If you need to have the values that we aspire to have, but when you get connected with a group of like-minded people, absolutely elevate your life. So if you're interested in that, go to dohardthingsnation.com, or reach out to me directly, and we will get you squared away. You can also go to lionsguide.com as well. So
yeah, it's great because you get to hear everybody else's take on it. So I feel like even on stuff that I've learned about time and time again, it's like when you hear it from somebody else's perspective, you get a whole new take on it. So yeah. It's pretty awesome being able to participate like that all together and learn from one another.
Man, I learned something. Angie a couple of weeks ago, gave me some perspectives from what we were talking about superiority, and from a woman's perspective, it just gave me a lot of, I had no idea. And just, so I guess the bottom line is every time that we have a conversation or we have a meeting, I facilitate the conversation, but I learn something every single time. And I hate using the term safe space, but it's a space where you can you got challenges in your life, we help you negotiate it. You got wins you want to celebrate, we celebrate wins. And so yeah, we're looking for like-minded people to join us there. So
absolutely.
All right, well, hey, that's it for this morning. I gotta get my kids up and out of bed and crush this Monday in the palm of my hand. So if you're listening to this, we appreciate you. We'd love to hear your feedback on the topic of emotional intelligence, and keep doing hard things. Crush this Monday. Or if you're listening to us on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, crush the day in the palm of your hands. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Zach, appreciate you being here, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Any final words or thoughts?
Oh, just crush it.
Crush it. Crush
That's
it.
what I-
Do hard things. We'll see you guys next episode.